So, you've chosen to quit using your creatine. Whether it's because you can't afford it, because you're not consistent in the habit of taking it, because your doctor isn't happy, or for whatever reason, but you're going to stop taking creatine. Well, in today's video, I'm going to explain exactly what happens in your body when, after a while supplementing with creatine monohydrate, you stop taking it. You will lose all the muscle that you have gained with much effort. You will be dragging from fatigue. Your hair will grow back. The first thing I want to tell you is, you can stop taking your creatine supplement whenever you want. Exactly nothing occurs if you cease taking it. There's no harm to your health, and I'll tell you about the performance drawbacks right now. However, this doesn't mean that things don't happen in your body. Let's take a look at them. We won't deeply review the physiology of creatine. There are many other videos on the channel like this one. I'll just remind you that creatine works by accumulation and intramuscular saturation. That is, with supplementation, you are looking to aid your body's basal production of creatine. Why? To achieve much higher levels in the muscle than you would have if you didn't take it. What is the duration for muscle creatine saturation? It usually takes 2 to 3 weeks with a standard dose of 3 to 5 grams, which is typical. So what will happen when I stop taking it? Well, your intramuscular creatine stores will return to baseline levels in 2 or 3 weeks. This will also depend on how you use it, that is, on its consumption. And consumption will depend on the training. And can't I maintain creatine levels at their highest without taking supplements? No, you can't, as your muscles, particularly when you train, tend to consume more creatine than your body naturally generates. Which I remind you is only 1 to 2 grams daily, no more. And quitting it won't cause me physical withdrawal. Understand that creatine, a tripeptide of 3 amino acids, is not a hormone, hence stopping its intake won't cause withdrawal. The following changes will occur, pay attention. Weight loss. You're sure to like this first consequence. You're going to lose weight. In fact, you can lose between 1 to 3 kilos in the first 2 weeks after stopping creatine. People with a lot of muscle mass can even lose more. Fabulous, isn't it? Well, no, since that weight loss is attributed to a loss of intracellular water. Creatine pulls water into your muscle cells, as it has osmotic power. When your muscle cells, your myocytes, are depleted of creatine, or partially depleted, or rather, return to pre-supplementation natural concentrations, they don't pull as much water into them. As a result, you eliminate fluids. Therefore, stopping creatine has a diuretic effect that will make you lose that amount of weight. Again, it's weight, not fat. Actually, water, not fat. More defined look. Many of you leave creatine and get a more marked or more defined look, which may be what you're looking for. Once again, this is due exactly to the previous point. And once again, it's something you like, and that indirectly adds bad reputation to creatine, the one you think creatine covers you up. And in part, this is true. Filling the muscles with glycogen and water, especially if creatine is consumed in the context of a high-carbohydrate diet, gives you a large but poorly defined appearance. Bulky muscles but not well defined. When you stop taking it, you will have a smaller muscle volume, but you are more likely to look more defined if you have a corresponding fat percentage. And mind you, I said smaller muscle volume but not necessarily less muscle mass. We will see this in the last point. Analytical variations. Ceasing creatine considerably lowers your plasma creatinine levels in the study. Although this is often a cause for joy for your doctor, it is neither good nor bad. As I explained in this video in detail, creatine is constantly metabolized to creatinine, which is then also constantly filtered by your kidneys. And that unchanging constancy in its metabolism and elimination makes medicine use creatinine and creatinine clearance as a cheap and indirect way to see if the kidneys are doing their job well. When you stop supplementing with creatine, the creatine that will reach your muscles will be much less. It will only be the one you can synthesize endogenously and the one you can ingest with meat and fish. So you will generate less creatinine and your analysis will change in this aspect. The most noticeable outcome of ceasing creatine consumption is likely reduced strength. Indeed, most of us take creatine to improve our performance in the gym or in the sport we practice, and that improvement occurs mainly in strength and anaerobic capacity. A good responder to creatine should initially improve by 5 to 10%. What occurs when you halt at full strength, albeit typically it's lesser? So, What will happen when you stop taking it? You will notice for a while that your maximum strength has decreased and you may be able to lift less weight in maximum lifts. The changes will not be drastic or anything like that, but if you were a good responder, they will be evident, you will notice it, and they will be more evident in the first 2 weeks, when your body is still adjusting to naturally producing creatine again. But it's crucial you grasp this. This temporary reduction in strength is due to energy changes, not muscular or neural ones. Your muscle and nervous system have the exact same capacity to generate force, but your muscle is less hydrated and you have less energy supplied by the high-energy phosphagen system. This point is very important. Decreased anaerobic capacity. Those of you who are dedicated to high-intensity sports such as short track and field events or CrossFit will notice an initial reduction in performance, especially when in those first meters or in the first 20 or 30 seconds of a goal, you may notice that your sprint worsens a bit, that you have less vertical height and in general less power and explosiveness. I repeat, these are temporary losses that usually improve over time, although of course until you supplement again, you will not return to the maximum performance point. Otherwise, creatine supplementation would be useless, and if it serves loss of muscle mass when you stop creatine, you will lose muscle. This statement is fallacious, and here we have to be very clear. As we have seen in previous points, when you see yourself more defined, smaller, and with less muscle volume, you may come to the conclusion that you are losing muscle at a forced pace by leaving creatine. But I'm going to convince you of the exact opposite with evidence. In this study, they investigated the effects of stopping creatine supplementation and also reducing training volume by 33% for 12 weeks in older adults. Older adults who had previously consumed creatine and who were compared with other older adults who had not previously taken creatine, the results showed that there was no significant change in lean mass in either of the two groups. And we have mentioned this before. The strength, especially the muscle mass that you gain thanks to creatine, you don't gain it directly thanks to creatine, but indirectly thanks to the increase in the intensity of your workouts thanks to creatine. What do I mean by this? Let's see. Unlike pets like testosterone, creatine doesn't reach your muscle cell, bind to a receptor, and activate protein expression to form more muscle. No, creatine remains in the cell's sarcoplasm, outside the nucleus, supplying energy as required, like during each lift. That's why, if you keep training and providing that stimulus to the muscle, you're not going to lose muscle mass that you've previously created, or the losses won't be significant. So Borja, what advice would you give me if I decide to quit creatine? There are certain guidelines to consider when discontinuing creatine. Firstly, hydrate well, as stopping will lead to a diuretic effect as mentioned before. Cellular dehydration, leading to performance decline, results from your cells losing water. Next, if your goal is performance or muscle mass increase, I recommend a high-carbohydrate diet, which will partially compensate for that decrease in energy within the muscle cell. And you have dozens of good sources of carbohydrates available. In addition to these sources, I personally use full gases Carbolider during peri-workout times, which honestly isn't very mysterious. It's basically potato amylopectin, potato starch. And finally, there's a supplement that works very similarly to the creatine we discussed a while ago on the channel, but hasn't yet hit the mainstream, but it will. What is it? It's adenosine triphosphate. Understanding creatine's physiology means understanding adenosine triphosphate's physiology. Both work synergistically, although not identically, and could be a good substitute for creatine in the seasons when you don't take it for whatever reason. Now you know what happens in your body when you stop taking creatine. I hope this video was helpful and informative. See you next time. Hug and keep empowering.